Hey guys, Ron here, and you may be thinking, what is this generic sounding, top 20 looking, Halloween pandering Pokemon list video? Is this going to be the usual suspects of Pokemon with crazy dex entries and spooky looking ghost Pokemon? No. Turns out as an artist, I'm a very visually analytic person, and that means I have a great deal of random phobias that are related to how things look. Like for example, I'm an arachnophobic. So does that mean I'm afraid of like insects? No, ants are cute, but if you were to add just one extra pair of legs, I'd freak out. So that means there are a bunch of Pokemon with some kind of visual quirk that makes me feel uncomfortable. So this is going to be a very unique set of Pokemon. I've always found it fun talking about unique opinions of mine, and I've always wondered if some of you guys could empathize with a few of my picks. If you don't, it'll be pretty funny to see me freak out over Pokemon that you think are innocuous. This isn't a list of Pokemon who look aesthetically dark like Dusclops or Houndoom, but rather Pokemon that can provoke my vivid imagination. Keep in mind, I will be exaggerating a bit. None of these Pokemon actually scare me. It's more the thought of these Pokemon that actually scares me, based on their looks or how they act. But let's begin with a Pokemon that we can all agree is a bit creepy, let's be honest here. Number 20. Cacturn. By now, every traveler knows that crossing the desert at night will get you jumped by a group of Cacturn. But I'm never going to be crossing a desert at night, so that's not a problem here. I think it's impressive how creepy Cacturn is. The thought of one just stalking you with its zombie-like scarecrow movements is chilling. Its piercing eyes shining through its silhouette would give anyone a classic scare. It's low on the list because it doesn't trigger any phobias of mine. It's just a really well-designed scary mon. Number 19. Carnivine. Now we're actually getting to a grass-type Pokemon that I don't like looking at. Its long, thin teeth, beady eyes, and wide head make it look extremely dangerous. If I saw this in the wild, my fight or flight senses will kick in. This is what I see when Carnivine is present. It's one of the few Pokemon that actually make me angry. I'm annoyed that it exists. It's low on the list because it's still pretty goofy, and its personality is relatively endearing. I still want to slap him though. I think I have a personal grudge against this plant. Number 18. Mr. Mime. I think many people would put Mr. Mime higher up on the list, but I don't have a fear of clowns. But I do have this sense of dread thinking about the possibility of humanoid creatures that look like us, but have something a bit off about them. I mean, it's literally the feeling of the uncanny valley. Mr. Mime is the Pokemon that looks the most like a human. It's literally just a nose away. Plus, they're able to move in the most unnatural way using their barriers. A normal Mr. Mime is pretty goofy, but the thought of one just harboring some kind of ulterior motive is somewhat unsettling. Never trust a mime. That's what I've been saying that for years. Number 17. Garchomp. I think the popularity of this monster has made us forget that this is a monster. It's one of the most intimidating Pokemon in existence, a literal killing machine, yet it just casually exists in the Pokemon world. Sure, we're frightened by the power of Cynthia's Garchomp, but we forget that if it wasn't trained by a Pokemon master, it would be unstoppable. I don't want to be near this. I finally realized how scary Garchomp really is when its Mega stepped on the scene. This is not okay. You can't live in a world where this exists. Number 16. Deoxys. Turns out I have to be afraid of things outside of this world as well. It's less that I'm frightened by the sight of this Pokemon, and more the cosmic horror that it represents. It's peak science fiction. An incomprehensible mutated virus on a rampage? Have you ever seen the movie Annihilation? In it, there's this alien being that is simply a force of nature, like Deoxys. And like Deoxys, it doesn't have thoughts or desires, it's just pure instinct. There's no reasoning with it. Its form is in flux, and so are its motivations. I can't trust this Pokemon, and therefore I fear it. And you should too, because it kind of helps the whole vibe of the video if you're at least a bit scared. Number 15. Naganadel. From one alien to the next. This is the most alien-looking Ultra Beast, partially because it's inspired by the Alien, one of the scariest creatures in cinema. But what would make an alien even scarier? If it had a giant needle. This is a great example of body horror in Pokemon. There is literally nothing cuddly about this creature. Even Giratina is somewhat cute. The whole philosophy behind Pokemon designs is that even the strongest Pokemon have something cute, goofy, or endearing about them. But not Ultra Beasts, and especially not Naganadel. I don't have a fear of needles or anything, but nobody wants to be stabbed by one. Number 14. Celesteela. We're just rolling with the alien theme, I guess. I have a slight fear of aliens, to be honest, but Celesteela actually touches upon one of my real phobias, which is megalophobia, the fear of giant objects. Now keep in mind, there are many Pokemon that are bigger than Celesteela, but megalophobia often manifests with odd-looking objects. And in this case, I am weirdly afraid of flying objects that have unusual shapes. For example, aircrafts with unique proportions, like the ones with huge foreheads, are unsettling to me. I can't even insert a picture into this video because of how uncomfortable it makes me feel. Google it yourself. And Celesteela somewhat generates this type of fear in me. It's the most uniquely shaped Pokemon with even more smaller details that make it even more confusing to look at. I understand what every aspect of her body means, and I'm a fan of her Kaguya origins. It's only lower on the list because it's not traditionally scary. Number 13. Ambipom. I always thought Ambipom was creepy, just like real-world snub-nosed monkeys. I hate them. I mean, the babies are cute, but get out of here. Combined with its eerie eyes and unsettling smile, I've never wanted to hurt a Pokemon more. It's probably the least traditionally scary Pokemon here, so you're probably just sitting here thinking, why does Ron want to assault a purple monkey? But if you think about it, it's probably the most realistic Pokemon here. The others don't exist, like aliens, interdimensional beings, mimes, and sentient plants. While this is a monkey, monkeys will mess you up, especially when they're baring their teeth. It's a sign of aggression. Number 12. Grimmsnarl. I love Grimmsnarl. We're buddies. He's been to my bar mitzvah. But goddamn is Grimmsnarl probably the ugliest Pokemon in existence. The kind of ugly that is considered scary in fantasy children's tales. I mean, that's what it's based on, like ogres, trolls, and goblins. But I never thought we'd have the literal embodiment of grotesqueness in Pokemon form. Once again, I love this guy. Nothing against him. He's invited to my wedding. But damn, is he ugly? Number 11. Amistar. Time for another phobia. Thalassophobia. The fear of the deep ocean. It's a very common one. It's a smart phobia to have. And Amistar is the exact kind of creature you don't want to see swimming with you. It's probably the most abominable Pokemon in Generation 1. You have a lot of Kanto Pokemon who look like straight up animals, but cows and rats aren't scary. However, Ammonites with eyes and teeth of a predator surely are. Nothing is cute about this Pokemon. At least Grimmsnarl has pretty colors and attacks you with hair. Amistar, however, will tear you apart with its fang beaks. I'm not friends with anything that has fang beaks. Number 10. Pinsir. The Amistar of the jungle. At least I don't have to meet an Amistar if I stay out of the ocean. But the fact that there's a walking and potentially flying nightmare bug just roaming around in the Pokemon Earth is one of the few reasons Pokemon shouldn't be real. And that's a huge statement, because Pokemon is the #1 fictional franchise and world that people would love to just live in. So the fact that Pinsir can make you doubt that decision kind of tells you how scary it is. Like, Giratina is scary, you're not going to randomly encounter one though. Pinsir can just appear in your backyard. Number 9. Hypno. While a ton of the following Pokemon look scary, this is the Pokemon with the most unsettling lore and myth surrounding it. It's the Pokemon on this list with the most creepypastas written on it. This famous image of Hypno stealing some children has always creeped me out. The average image of a Hypno doesn't scare me, but the stories and art that you can find of Hypno online are by far the creepiest out of any Pokemon here. Number 8. Stakataka. Anybody here have trypophobia? You know, the fear of tiny holes? While it's not the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Stakataka, I do find a sentient building with an eye on each brick to be a work of a truly inspirational person. Any horror artist would kill to create such a concept. Combine that with my megalophobia and you have an incomprehensible interdimensional living fortress. Imagine walking in the dead of night and you chance upon such a being. All its eyes start to blink and it starts chasing you down. How is that not terrifying? Number 7. Glalie. It really seems like a lot of the Pokemon on this list are ones that would definitely terrify me if I randomly encountered them in the wild, just alone by myself. And if I was caught in a blizzard, the last thing I want to bump into is a floating Oni head. But now it's time to reveal another irrational fear of mine. The color combination of black and white. I'm obviously not afraid of zebras or pandas, but if something is already scary to me, like a spider, the fright will be enhanced if it also just so happens to be black and white. I mean, this is probably an evolved trait we had back when we were cavemen, afraid of like faces in the dark or bugs that had bright colors on them. But what seals Glalie's place on the list is its megaform. Its jaw literally breaks and Glalie now floats around with its mouth agape. Truly chilling. Number 6. Araquanid. My number 1 phobia is the fear of spiders. And truthfully, no Pokemon actually triggers my arachnophobia, because none of them have, more than 6 legs. I get anxious around anything with 8 legs and up. But when it comes to the types of spiders that I'm scared of, Araquanid takes the cake. It has such long, ominous legs. It's a very cool Pokemon, don't get me wrong, but one more set of legs and I wouldn't want to train one. Number 5. Guzzlord. This is the most horribly cosmic Pokemon in the franchise. It's incredibly Lovecraftian, a nightmare incarnate, tied as my favorite Ultra Beast because of the emotions that it just gives me. A living black hole. Do you know the dread that you would feel looking into a black hole? Of course you don't. You've never seen one. You'd go crazy. This is the most insane design in Pokemon. I've always felt dread thinking of how if one was let loose, that's the end of the world. Number 4. Tentacruel. Forget Amistar. The number one Pokemon that I would not want to encounter underwater is Tentacruel. Since I was a child, I hated the amount of tentacles it had. I could never remember how many there were. Too many, that's the answer. It felt like a real jellyfish or giant squid that would disturb anyone in the real world. And don't lie to me, terrifying stories of sea monsters that look exactly like Tentacruel have fascinated mankind for millennia. It's crazy that this is just a normal Pokemon we allowed to exist. I mean, don't we have laws or something? Number 3. Banette. I can save my voice for this one. It's almost objectively the creepiest Pokemon here. A design that Game Freak made to scare little boys and girls, and 26-year-old man-children. And they succeeded. The thought of one following me home at night is pretty, not pleasant. It's not pleasant. No. Its Gen 3 sprite was also weirdly scuffed, making it even more menacing. Look at this! Even freaking Junji Ito, the king of horror manga, acknowledges the horrific potential of Banette. Killer dolls will always be frightening. Number 2. Steelix. The top 2 are personal, so there's no need to empathize. Steelix is a perfect design, but it terrifies me. Steelix in real life would be my worst nightmare. Not only is it huge, it has the freakiest face I've seen on a Pokemon, an overwhelming chin, and the creepiest smile on a Pokemon. And even worse, this thing digs. Digs. Which means that it can pop out of nowhere. As a child, I would always sweat thinking about just being chased by a Steelix. Honorable mention time. Here are a bunch of scary Pokemon that could have been here, but weren't. That's what honorable mention means. Gliscor is scary. It's constantly smiling. And it's a nice smile. Electros would be terrifying in real life, but it's less sharp than I remember. Xurkitree moves like a faceless clown. Giratina is scary, sure, but it's also super cool. I think I find it way more cool than scary. Like literally the same case with Darkrai, Nidoking, and Golisopod. Haunter is frightening, but too minimal to overwhelm my senses. I would hate for a Vikavolt to exist in real life, but it doesn't really scare me when I look at it in-game. Blacephalon could scare some, but I find it fun and unique. Drapion is also pretty terrifying, but very unrealistic. Registeel would be unsettling, but not all that dangerous looking. Eternatus is just a bony dragon, more comprehensible to behold. Overquill is pretty scary, but mostly in terms of touching it. Trevenant is a perfect ghost type, but like Spiritomb, I don't think it would be able to catch me. Granbull's tusks are freaky, but the rest is just a dog. Same with Houndoom. Beedrill may be actually less scary than an actual bee, because I could see it coming. Cofagrigus was close to being here for how creepy it crawls. Same with Centiskorch, but it's too flat to be scary. Parasect is a great zombie, but mushrooms don't scare me. Kinda why I think Shiinotic is cute. And finally, there are a bunch of Gmax Pokemon that I would hate to witness, like Kingler, Gengar, Orbeetle, and especially Gmax Centiskorch. But honestly, all Gmax Pokemon would terrify me, so I disqualified them all. And finally, number 1 is Claydol. I have a history with Claydol. It's the number 1 Pokemon I genuinely feel uncomfortable looking at. It has a ton of traits I mentioned before. Too many of a specific body part, a black and white color scheme, creepy movements, alien origins, no concrete anthropomorphic emotions, and an incomprehensible biology. It's like seeing a biblically accurate angel. It can drive me mad. This gif of Mega Claydol perfectly demonstrates how I see normal Claydol, an unfathomable being that ruins my day. But hopefully this video made your day more enjoyable, either by making you feel heard or because you laughed at how much of a wimp I am. So leave a like to show your support and subscribe if you haven't. Check the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made for you guys, and my Patreon where you can get cool rewards like seeing my videos days early, which you can also do by clicking the join button and becoming a member. Please follow me on Twitter too. Goodbye!